When Logan's wife, Vanessa, issues an ultimatum, obey me or get nothing, she expects him to fold, to beg, to play by her rules like he always has. But this time, Logan does something unexpected. He laughs, and then he leaves. What starts as silent defiance soon spirals into something darker. Vanessa refuses to let go, crossing every line, breaking into his home, pushing him further and further. But what she doesn't realize is, Logan isn't the same man she used to control. When she takes things too far, Logan finally fights back. And the moment he does, everything changes. Fire. What happens next? Find out in the full story. Fire. Logan sat at the dining table, fingers tapping against the polished wood, his face blank, but his mind racing. Across from him, Vanessa stood tall, arms crossed over her chest, her expression cold, confident. You either obey me, she said, her voice sharp as a knife, or you get nothing from me. Ever. Logan stared at her, unblinking. The words echoed in his mind, but not because they hurt. No, he had long stopped feeling that kind of pain. She expected him to crumble, to argue, to plead. Instead, he laughed. Not a forced laugh, not bitter, just a genuine, amused chuckle that bubbled up before he could stop it. Vanessa's face twisted in confusion. What the hell is so funny? Logan leaned back in his chair, stretching his arms behind his head. You, he said simply. You actually think that'll work? Vanessa's posture stiffened. It's not a game, Logan. He tilted his head, watching her like a puzzle he had finally figured out. No, it's not. And that's exactly why I won't play anymore. A flicker of something crossed her eyes. Doubt, maybe, or fear. She quickly masked it. You think you can survive without me? Logan exhaled. Vanessa, I've already survived you. Her lips curled into a sneer. So that's it. You're just giving up. He stood, pushing his chair back slowly. The scrape of wood against tile was the only sound in the room. No, I'm just done. Vanessa folded her arms tighter, trying to hold on to control. And where the hell do you think you're going? He grabbed his phone from the table and turned away. Anywhere but here. He didn't slam the door, didn't yell, didn't do anything dramatic. Just walked away, leaving her standing in the kitchen, still expecting him to come back, still believing she held all the power. She didn't. Not anymore. Logan walked into the bedroom, pulled a pillow and blanket from the bed, and moved to the guest room. No explanations. No pleading. Just distance. Behind the door, he heard her sharp intake of breath. But she didn't follow. Not yet. Because Vanessa thought this was just another fight. She didn't realize it was the start of a war. And Logan? He was done losing. The morning light streamed through the windows, but the warmth did nothing to thaw the ice between them. Logan sat at the kitchen table, sipping his coffee in silence. Across from him, Vanessa stood with her arms folded, her nails tapping against her forearm. She was waiting for him to break, waiting for him to sigh, shake his head, and apologize, like he always did. Not this time. So, are you done acting childish? She finally snapped. Logan took another slow sip of coffee before setting his mug down with a soft clink. He leaned back in his chair, studying her the way a man might examine a storm on the horizon. Inevitable, but no longer a threat. Yeah, he said. I actually am. Vanessa's brow furrowed. Good. Then. But not in the way you think, Logan interrupted, his voice eerily calm. I'm done playing this game with you. Silence. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Vanessa's face, but she recovered quickly. Oh, so now you're acting like the victim? That's rich. She rolled her eyes, crossing the kitchen to pour herself coffee. You're making a big deal out of nothing, Logan. Logan chuckled, shaking his head. Nothing? You stood in front of me and told me to obey you or be cut off. You think that's normal? Vanessa scoffed. You're twisting my words. Logan exhaled through his nose. He wasn't even angry anymore. He was just done. You know what's funny? He mused, running a finger along the rim of his cup. For years, I kept thinking maybe I was the problem. Maybe if I tried harder, did more, things would change. He looked up at her, and for the first time in their relationship, Vanessa was the one who looked nervous. But the truth is, I was just giving you more room to control me. Vanessa set her cup down hard, some of the coffee sloshing onto the counter. So now you're the poor, helpless husband trapped with an evil wife? Is that it? Logan smirked. Oh no, I'm not helpless at all. She blinked. Something about the way he said it, so calm, so certain, sent a chill through her. Logan stood, grabbing his keys from the counter. Where are you going? She demanded. Out. Vanessa let out a hollow laugh. Oh, real mature. Running away because things didn't go your way. Logan turned to her, his expression unreadable. No. I'm walking away because for the first time, I don't care what you think. He didn't wait for her response. He didn't check to see if she was following. He just walked out the door. And for the first time in years, he felt free. The night was quiet. Too quiet. Logan leaned against the balcony railing of his apartment, staring out at the city lights. The wind was cool against his skin, but his mind was burning. For years, his life had been dictated by Vanessa's moods, her ultimatums, her control. But tonight, for the first time, he had taken a step away from it all. His phone buzzed on the table beside him. Vanessa, he sighed, rubbing his jaw before glancing at the screen. 5 missed calls. A new message appeared. Vanessa, you think ignoring me makes you the bigger person? Another one, almost immediately after. Vanessa, come home now. We need to talk. Logan let out a dry chuckle. Talk. She didn't want to talk. She wanted to win. He picked up his phone and, instead of replying, turned it off. Tonight, she could be the one waiting. When he finally returned home the next morning, Logan expected silence. Instead, the moment he stepped inside, Vanessa was standing in the middle of the living room, arms crossed, foot tapping against the floor. Where the hell have you been? She snapped. Logan locked the door behind him, tossing his keys onto the table. Out. Vanessa scoffed. That's all you have to say? You disappear all night, ignore my calls, and you just say out. He shrugged. Worked just fine when you used to do it. Her nostrils flared. So that's what this is? You're punishing me. Logan exhaled slowly, shaking his head. Vanessa, I'm not playing your game anymore. I'm done explaining myself. She took a step forward, her hands balling into fists. You're my husband, Logan. You don't just get to check out and act like I don't exist. Logan's expression didn't change. Funny. That's exactly what you wanted me to do last night, right? Obey or get nothing. Well, congratulations, Vanessa. You finally get nothing. She froze. For the first time, her confidence cracked, just a little. You don't mean that, she whispered. Logan tilted his head. Don't I? Vanessa swallowed, her throat bobbing. Look, maybe we both just need to cool off. Let's sit down and talk like adults. Logan smiled. Not because he was happy, but because he recognized this. This was her strategy. First came the anger, then the guilt, then the fake reasoning, the fake compromise. Anything to keep him in line. He stepped past her and grabbed a duffel bag from the closet. Vanessa's breath hitched. What are you doing? I'm leaving, Logan said simply, tossing a few clothes into the bag. Vanessa moved fast, grabbing his wrist. No, you're not walking out on me. Logan looked down at her hand, then back at her face. Let go, Vanessa. Her grip tightened. You're making a mistake. Logan exhaled through his nose. No, I'm finally correcting one. Then he wrenched his arm free, zipped up his bag, and slung it over his shoulder. As he walked toward the door, Vanessa's voice broke behind him. You'll regret this, Logan. He paused, gripping the doorknob. For a brief second, he considered looking back. Then he pushed the door open and stepped outside. And he never looked back. Logan had expected peace. After years of walking on eggshells, of apologizing for things that weren't his fault, of bending over backward just to keep Vanessa satisfied, he thought leaving would bring him relief. And at first, it did. The silence of his new apartment was unfamiliar, but it wasn't suffocating, it was his. No constant arguments, no snide remarks, no tension wrapping around his throat like a noose. But peace never lasts when you leave someone who thrives on control. Because Vanessa wasn't done, and she was about to make sure he knew it. The first sign that she hadn't accepted the breakup came 3 days later. Logan had just stepped out of the shower when his phone buzzed. He wiped the steam off the screen and checked his notifications. 10 missed calls. Vanessa, we need to talk. Answer your damn phone. Vanessa, you're really doing this? After everything? Vanessa, I swear. Logan, you're making a huge mistake. Logan sighed, tossing his phone onto the bed. He wasn't going to respond. But ignoring her was a mistake. Because Vanessa didn't just want closure. She wanted control. And if she couldn't reach him through words, she'd find another way. The banging on his door started at midnight. Logan had been asleep. Deep, peaceful sleep. The kind he hadn't had in years. When the first heavy thud echoed through his apartment. Boom, boom, boom. His eyes snapped open. For a second, he thought he had imagined it. Then, boom, louder, more aggressive. Logan sat up, heart steady but alert. He grabbed his phone and checked the screen. No texts, no missed calls. But he didn't need to see the caller ID to know who it was. He swung his legs over the bed and walked to the front door, muscles tense. He didn't open it, didn't say a word. Then, through the wood, her voice. Logan, Vanessa called, her tone sickeningly sweet. Open the door. Logan closed his eyes and exhaled through his nose. No. A pause. Then a sharp laugh. Oh, come on. Don't be like this, baby. We need to talk. We don't. Silence. Then bang. A full-force kick against the door. Logan's jaw clenched. He should have expected this. Vanessa didn't take no for an answer. You can't just ignore me, she hissed. Logan turned, grabbed his phone, and started dialing. I wouldn't do that if I were you, she warned, her voice lowering. He ignored her. The line rang once, then twice. Vanessa's tone changed, shifting into something dangerous. Logan, I swear to God. Click. 911. What's your emergency? Vanessa went dead silent on the other side of the door. Logan didn't hesitate. Yeah, I've got someone trespassing and harassing me at my apartment. She won't leave. He heard her sharp inhale, heard the way her breath quickened. The game was over. He had played by her rules for too long. Now, she was the one losing control. Sir, is the person still outside? The operator asked. Logan stared at the door, at the woman on the other side who was realizing, maybe for the first time, that she had finally pushed too far. Yes, Logan said, voice steady. But she won't be for long. The sirens in the distance weren't just for show. They were for her. The sirens cut through the night like a blade. Logan stood in his apartment, his grip firm on the phone as he listened to Vanessa's breathing on the other side of the door. It was different now, shallow, unsteady. She wasn't in control anymore. The flashing red and blue lights painted his living room in chaotic patterns as the patrol car pulled up outside. Then came the voice, deep, commanding. This is the police. Step away from the door with your hands visible. Silence. Then, after a long pause, the sound of Vanessa stepping back. Are you serious, Logan? Her voice was low, dangerous. You really called them on me? Logan didn't answer. Didn't need to. The next sound was the shuffle of boots on pavement as the officers approached. Knock, knock, knock. Ma'am, we need to have a word, one of them said firmly. Logan exhaled, finally unlocking the deadbolt. The door creaked open just enough for him to see the officers flanking Vanessa. She wasn't looking at them, though. She was staring straight at him. And her eyes? They weren't filled with fear. They were filled with something worse. Hate. This is ridiculous, she muttered, crossing her arms. I'm his wife. I have every right to be here. One of the officers, a tall man with sharp eyes, glanced at Logan. You want to press charges? Vanessa's head snapped toward him, her expression daring him to say yes. And for a moment, just a moment, he considered it. But Logan wasn't the same man who had spent years letting her dictate his every move. He wasn't here to fight. He wasn't here to prove a point. He was here to be done. No, Logan said finally. I just want her gone. Vanessa's jaw clenched, but she didn't speak. The officers exchanged a glance before nodding. Ma'am, you need to leave the premises now, one of them said. If you come back, we'll be having a very different conversation. For the first time, Vanessa's mask cracked. Her lips parted slightly, like she wanted to scream, wanted to lunge at him, wanted to do something. But she couldn't. She had lost. With one final, venomous glare, she turned on her heel and stalked away. The officers waited until she was out of sight before turning back to Logan. If she comes back, don't hesitate to call us. Logan nodded, shaking the officer's hand before closing the door. And when the lock clicked into place, a strange feeling washed over him. Relief. For the first time in years, Vanessa wasn't standing in his home. For the first time in years, she wasn't hovering over his life like a storm waiting to break. She was gone. And this time, she wasn't coming back. The silence felt foreign. Logan sat on his couch, staring at the locked door as if expecting Vanessa to suddenly reappear, to push her way back in, to demand control again. But she wouldn't. Not this time. He took a deep breath, running a hand through his hair. The tension that had been coiled inside him for years was starting to unravel, slowly but surely. She was gone. He was free. The next few days were quiet. For the first time in a long time, Logan woke up without the weight of Vanessa's words pressing on his chest. He wasn't walking on eggshells. He wasn't waiting for the next argument, the next ultimatum, the next mind game. His house felt different, lighter, cleaner, But deep down, he knew Vanessa wouldn't accept defeat so easily. And he was right. Because 3 days later, the text started again. Vanessa, so this is how it ends? You throw away everything we had. Vanessa, you think I'm just going to disappear? Vanessa, you'll regret this, Logan. The words were meant to unsettle him, to shake his resolve, to make him doubt. But he didn't. Not anymore. He deleted every message without reading past the first few words. Blocked her number. Erased her presence from his life one step at a time. Because Vanessa's biggest weapon had always been control. And now, she had none. The last time Logan ever saw her was by accident. He was sitting in a coffee shop, flipping through his phone, when a shadow passed outside the window. His muscles tensed instinctively before his brain caught up. Vanessa. She was across the street, standing on the sidewalk, staring at him. She wasn't trying to get his attention. She wasn't making a scene. She was just watching. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then, finally, Logan lifted his coffee cup and took a slow sip, his expression unreadable. He wasn't afraid of her anymore. And she knew it. Something flickered in Vanessa's eyes. Maybe anger, maybe regret, maybe even fear. Then, without a word, she turned and disappeared into the crowd. Logan didn't follow, didn't even look back. Because Vanessa was nothing more than a ghost now. Just another chapter of his past that had finally closed. And as he sat there, taking another sip of coffee, he realized something. For the first time in years, he was happy. The end.